Okay, so you're probably looking for that secret shortcut to fluency, right?
Yeah, we all want that effortless flow when we speak English.
That's why this YouTube video we found really caught our eye. And they say they can help you build what they call an English brain.
Pretty intriguing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, can you really rewire your thinking to make English feel more automatic, more natural?
Well, that's what we're going to find out today.
Exactly. And the thing is, they're not focusing on all the usual stuff,
Yeah,
grammar drills or memorizing tons of vocab.
right. They're really looking at how your brain actually learns language and finding ways to make fluency just kind of click.
Love that. So the first tip they have is all about using what they call thought chains.
Have you ever noticed how one thought just leads to another in your mind, almost like links in a chain?
All the time. It's like my brain just can't sit still.
It's a totally natural way our brains work, and these guys are using that for language learning.
Cool. So how does it work?
You just start with a simple English word and just let your mind go wherever it wants. Write down all those related words that pop up.
I like it. So it's kind of like free association.
Exactly.
So they gave the example of starting with the word coffee.
Right, and that led to Starbucks, then work deadlines, and even weekend plans.
Wow. So it's really like a domino effect, starting with one word and then boom, a whole chain of thoughts.
Exactly, and it feels really effortless.
The key here, I guess, is not to overthink it, right?
Yeah, just let those ideas flow naturally in English and don't worry about being perfect or grammatically correct.
I think this would be a fun experiment for our listeners right now.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Pick a word like food and just see where your mind goes.
Yeah, give it a try. It's a great way to warm up your English brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Tip number 2 is about developing what they call English autopilot.
We've all been there. You're in a conversation and suddenly your mind goes blank.
Oh, yeah, totally. I
Nice.
know what I want to say, but the words just disappear.
And you get that deer in the headlights look.
Uh-huh, yeah, it's like being stuck in a linguistic traffic jam.
Their solution is to have some go-to responses ready to use, just like native speakers do.
So I don't have to keep saying, or, while I search for the right word.
Exactly. You could say something like, "That's interesting," or "Let me think about that for a second,"
That buys you some time to process everything and come up with a better response.
while still keeping the conversation going.
Brilliant. And the best part is that Daily Native English has a free PDF with 50 of these common expressions.
We'll definitely link that in the show notes.
Awesome. Okay, tip number 3 is about making your English more vivid and engaging.
Ah, yes, metaphors and analogies. This is where language gets really fun.
Instead of just stating the facts, you're painting pictures with your words.
Like in the video, they said instead of saying "it's hot," you could say, "It feels like I'm in a sauna."
Ooh, that's much better.
It instantly creates a sensory experience.
And it's more memorable.
What's really interesting is that using metaphors actually trains your brain to think in bigger concepts.
So you're not getting stuck translating individual words.
Right, you're thinking in images and ideas, which is much closer to how native speakers think.
Okay, so I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Think about your day so far and describe one thing using a metaphor.
Okay, let me see. My inbox this morning was like an overflowing dam threatening to burst.
I love it. Listeners, we want to hear your metaphors too.
It's a great way to flex those creative language muscles.
Okay, so their next tip is a bit unexpected. It's about expressing your emotions in English.
Now, this might sound strange at first, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
How so?
Our emotions are deeply connected to how our brains learn and remember things.
So if we link those emotions to the English language, it strengthens those neural connections.
Exactly. So instead of just feeling frustrated, you could say out loud, "I'm so frustrated because I can't find my keys."
Got it. So by putting those feelings into English words, we're reinforcing that connection between how we feel and the language.
Exactly. It's like training your brain to express itself authentically in English, even when you're feeling emotional.
And the video also talked about using affirmations in English.
Right. Things like, "I am capable of speaking English fluently," or "I am making progress every day."
Not only does this boost your confidence, but it also creates positive feelings about the language.
Like you're rewiring your brain to believe in your ability to succeed.
I love that. And finally, they talk about the importance of practicing in real-world situations, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
They call it simulating English-only environments.
Putting all those skills you've learned into action.
Like ordering food, giving directions, or dealing with those unexpected situations like losing your wallet or missing your flight.
And they even had a fun little trick for coming up with these situations using TikTok.
Oh, yeah. You just pause a video and imagine how you would react in that situation using all those thought chains and metaphors we talked about.
Like turning social media into a secret language learning tool.
Exactly. And this really highlights the main point of the video, which is that fluency isn't just about studying grammar and vocab.
It's about training your brain to think and react in English naturally and effortlessly.
Just like you do in your native language.
And that's what we're going to keep exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We'll be back after a quick break. All right, so we're back and ready to dive even deeper into this idea of building an English brain.
And in this part of the video, Daily Native English talks about something really interesting, using your inner voice to boost your fluency.
Ooh, that little voice in my head that never shuts up.
Exactly. That constant stream of thoughts we all have going on.
I'm listening. Tell me more.
Well, they suggest that we can actually use that inner voice to our advantage.
So instead of just letting it run wild, we can actually train it to help us with English.
Exactly. It's about making a conscious effort to shift that inner monologue into English.
So even if I'm not speaking out loud, I can still be practicing in my head.
Precisely. Instead of thinking and processing things in your native language, start doing it in English.
It's like creating a little English-speaking world inside my own mind.
You got it. And as you practice this, you'll notice that your brain starts to make those English connections more automatically.
So it becomes less about translating and more about thinking directly in English.
Right, like if you're planning your day, making a shopping list, or even just daydreaming, try doing it all in English.
It makes sense. So it's like you're constantly immersing yourself in the language, even when you're not actively speaking or writing.
Exactly. You're basically training your brain to operate in English mode.
All right, so another tip that really resonated with me was the idea of focusing on the process, not just the outcome.
This is a really important mindset shift for language learners because it's so easy to get caught up in the goal of fluency and feel discouraged if you're not progressing as fast as you'd like.
Yeah, you can start to feel like you're failing if you don't reach those milestones you set for yourself.
Right. But this video reminds us that learning a language is a journey, not a destination.
It's about enjoying the ride and appreciating how far you've come.
Absolutely.
Right.
And by focusing on the process, by celebrating those small wins and acknowledging the effort you're putting in, you stay motivated and create more sustainable learning habits.
I love that. It's like the saying, fall in love with the process and the results will follow.
Exactly. And one practical suggestion they have for cultivating this process-oriented mindset is to keep a language learning journal.
Ooh, I like that idea.
It's a great way to track your progress, celebrate your accomplishments, and also identify areas where you might need to focus your efforts.
So you can write down new words and phrases you've learned, reflect on your learning experiences, and even set goals for the future.
Exactly. It's a really powerful tool for staying motivated and connected to the language.
And speaking of motivation, the video also emphasizes the importance of finding your why.
Your reason for learning English.
Exactly. Like, what are your goals? What do you hope to achieve?
Because when you have a clear purpose in mind, it makes the whole journey more meaningful.
It's like having that North Star guiding you.
Yeah, right. Think about those times when you feel frustrated or discouraged. Connecting back to your why can really help to reignite your passion and give you the fuel to keep going.
So whether it's to travel the world, connect with new people, advance your career, or simply enjoy your favorite English language movies and books, take some time to really think about why you're learning English and write it down somewhere. You'll see it often.
Now, here's another interesting question that the video poses. How can you make language learning more fun and engaging for yourself?
Because let's face it, when you enjoy something, you're more likely to stick with it.
Right. So they encourage people to think outside the box and find ways to incorporate English into activities they already love.
So if you love music, try listening to English language artists and see if you can understand the lyrics.
Or if you're a gamer, try playing your favorite games in English.
So many possibilities.
Yeah.
It's about finding what sparks your interest and making language learning feel like a natural part of your life.
And they also have some great tips for making the most of your study time. Well, one of them is about setting realistic goals.
Because it's easy to get overambitious and burn yourself out.
Exactly. So instead of aiming to learn 100 new words a day, start with a smaller, more manageable number.
Like 5 new words a day, consistently learned and reviewed.
And they also emphasize the importance of active learning.
So it's not enough to just passively consume information like watching movies or listening to music.
You need to actively engage with the language.
Repeat phrases out loud.
Right.
Write down new vocabulary. Try to use it in conversations.
It's like working out a whistle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Right. And their last tip for this section is about creating a supportive learning environment for yourself.
And that's where the power of community comes in.
Surrounding yourself with other language learners, either online or in person.
Because it's so much easier to stay motivated when you have others who are going through the same journey.
It's like having a cheerleading squad for your language learning goals.
And don't be afraid to seek out resources and support. There are tons of websites, apps, and online communities that can help you along the way.
So many great resources out there just waiting to be discovered. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into building an English brain.
And you know, after looking at all these tips from Daily Native English, it really hits you how powerful they can be when you put them all together.
Yeah, it's not just about memorizing a bunch of words or grammar rules.
It's about developing a whole new way of thinking in English.
Right, like shifting from that conscious effort to a more natural subconscious fluency.
Exactly. And that's when things really start to click. You know, it's kind of like how we learned our native language as kids.
We weren't studying textbooks or doing grammar drills back then.
It was all about being immersed in the language, experimenting, and just wanting to communicate.
Yeah, we were constantly interacting with the world around us, expressing ourselves and making sense of our experiences.
And these techniques kind of tap into that same natural way of learning, but in a more focused way for adults learning English.
So it's not about trying to become a native speaker.
It's about finding your own unique voice in English.
That's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah,
And it makes me think, could these techniques also work for reading and writing?
that's a great question. And I think the answer is definitely yes.
Because those principles of making connections, thinking in images, and activating different parts of your brain
Yeah.
apply to all aspects of language.
Right, so you could use thought chains to help you understand complex texts.
Or metaphors to make your writing more interesting and engaging.
Exactly. There are so many ways to apply these ideas. It's all about experimenting and seeing what works best for you.
Now, one thing that Daily Native English kept emphasizing was the importance of consistency.
Right. It's not about cramming in a ton of study time all at once.
It's about making English a regular part of your daily routine, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Those small, consistent habits make a huge difference in the long run.
But what I really appreciate about this video is how it empowers learners to take control of their own fluency journey.
It's not about relying on textbooks or teachers.
It's about being proactive,
Mm.
seeking out opportunities to engage with the language, and just having fun with it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this approach so refreshing. It's not just about learning English. It's about fostering a love of language and exploring all the amazing things it can do.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, remember that free PDF that Daily Native English mentioned with those 50 common expressions.
Oh yeah, that's a great resource. We'll make sure to include a link in the show notes.
And even beyond those specific tips, remember the most important thing is that fluency is within your reach.
It's about training your brain to think and react in English effortlessly.
Embracing the journey, experimenting with different techniques, and most importantly, having fun along the way.
Because when you enjoy the process learning, English becomes an exciting adventure.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep that English brain humming.
Until next time, happy learning.